So what's going on, you guys? It's time for the Gifted recap, alright? So we're here for Season 1, Episode 7, Extreme Measures. Now, this episode really, honestly, it almost lost me because there wasn't that much going on as there has been in the previous episodes. I kind of lost interest in a couple of characters and a couple of the plots. I really did at this point. I mean, I wasn't really feeling this episode like I was the other ones. Not to say that there wasn't any good developments. There was a couple, but there were like mini reveals. It wasn't anything like huge, but you know, you can't give it to us every single episode with like big giant reveals and big huge action scenes all the time. Like the most action that we got was the scene with Marcos when he was doing that thing with the drug cartel. I mean, that was pretty much it. Other than that, like there really wasn't that much going on in this episode. So, like the rest of the series has been doing so far, we start with the flashback. Okay, so it flashes back to this diner, and Marcos is meeting John and Lorna for the very first time. So at this point, like Marcos is still, you know, in the cartel, still dealing with that, still dating Carmen and whatever. And I found it ironic that Lorna, she's like, well, you know what, you should just get a new girlfriend. It's ironic because of the fact that she ended up being the new girlfriend, you know, in the present day. But I honestly don't know how long this is going to last considering what happened in this episode. But anyway, it starts off right where the last episode ended, with Marcos getting the call from Carmen that, you know, she needs his help with something, and you know, he better do it, otherwise she's gonna call Sentinel Services and blow up their entire operation. They're talking about things that they have to get done. This is at MU. John is like kind of briefing everybody, and you know, everyone is telling the Sage is telling them about the things that they've done, any like new developments, because they're trying to crack the codes on the information, the hard drive that they retrieved from the Justice Center in the last episode. They're trying to crack this code so they can find information that could be useful to them. They need to get this list of mutants that the Sentinel Services is using. And then John mentions that he's going to go and find Clarice Blake. Of course, you see Dreamer, and she gets all like kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say I think there's a little bit of jealousy there. She's just like, what? She's like, do you need me to go with you or what? And he's like, no, you know, I can do this on my own. And I really don't like Dreamer. I really don't. She is so to me. I don't know. I guess maybe she'll have some type of development that'll you know, attempt to win my trust back, but I don't trust her. I really just don't trust her. But anyway, so we get Wes and Lauren. They're out here on the scaffolding, and he's using his illusions to try and win her over and stuff, and woo her, you know, giving her like this image of like them being in the mountains or something over this river, and them kind of like flying over it, and that was kind of cute, you know. And then you know, they're about to kiss, and here comes Andy cock blocking because and he's like, I hope you two got like checked for herpes or something, and he's like, it's really common. I'm just like, Andy. When they get to where, you know, they get to the table to eat, and Kate is like asking them about if they wrote their papers or whatever assignments that she's giving to them, and Andy's like, I didn't know you were serious. I'm like, me neither, honestly. And she's like, well, that's the deal. She made a deal with them. You know, they can train and train to, you know, hone their skills with their powers if they study, if they do work. Kind of like the Xavier Institute, you know. They also had to actually study in the real core subjects, math and reading and stuff, before they were able to go and practice and stuff in the danger room and stuff. So, you know, again, I'm making the connection between the two. As Reed and Sage are kind of going through these files, they finally got in. As they're going through the files, they notice that there's a few mutants on the wanted list, and one of them happens to be somebody who fits Wes's description. You know, the picture that they drew of him is very reminiscent of the way that Wes looks, and also his power is also listed as image manipulation. So that was like a dead giveaway to Reed that, oh my gosh, this is the guy that Lauren has been hanging out with since he got here. With Jace now at Sentinel Services, okay, he's still thinking, he still has these thoughts of, when he, arrived home in the previous episode, and he's like, his wife tells him, that Grace is dead, and he didn't actually remember that part because of what Dreamer did, and all of that stuff is going through his head. He's meeting with Campbell, and while he's talking to him, Campbell suggests using mutant double agents to, get in with the mutant underground, and then using whatever technology they have to control them and use them against them so that they can, capture all the mutants. However, Jace doesn't really seem to be like completely on board with this, and you see it later on in the episode as well. We'll come back to him. Okay, Marcos meets with Carmen, and this is kind of like the main part of the episode. This is like the main plot of the episode, pretty much. Okay, Marcos is meeting with Carmen, and she's still shading Lorna. She shades Lorna every single time. She's like, "Oh, Magnet Girl." She's like, "I know you're just doing all this for Magnet Girl." I'm like, Carmen, just accept the fact that he just does not care about you like that anymore. I mean, I feel like she's gonna try and get him back by making him do all of this craziness with him. I mean, with her. And I don't know if it's gonna work or not. He seems like he might be easily strayed, so I feel like he might end up going down that path, especially at the later scene when they're actually going through with all of the stuff, all of the I think they were trying to eradicate like one of the other drug cartels that were like pushing the same stuff as them or whatever, and they go and Marcos, he blows up all of the drugs, all of the supplies, and there's like this big explosion. But anyway, so yeah, I mean that's pretty much the biggest thing that happened in this episode is like that whole development. And the thing is, like, Lorna, okay, he originally said, and this is like kind of jumping around now, but originally Marcos said that he would be going to Marietta, which is where another safe house is of the Mutant Underground, and he was going there to get some supplies. Later on, Lorna, she calls Marietta because like she wonders where he is because he's been gone for so long now and he hasn't called her at any time, like he hasn't contacted her, so she's a little bit worried. So she calls up to Marietta and she's like, "Oh hey, we're calling from Atlanta and we're just wondering, did Marcos come for the supplies or whatever?" And the guy on the phone is like, "Well, first of all, we haven't had supplies in weeks, and also nobody has come up here, so I don't know, And so Lorna then draws the conclusion because now, like, she realized that little like pendant or necklace or whatever that Marcos used to wear when he was a part of Cartel is actually gone from the room. So she drew the conclusion as to where he actually went. So she grabs Dreamer and they go to the mansion that Carmen's they go to Carmen's mansion and they interrogate the guards to try and find out where Marcos went. And when they finally find him, he's blowing stuff up, and you can kind of see it on his face that he's kind of loving it. Like he's like kind of numb to the situation, and he doesn't really even give it a second thought because he knows what's at stake. But then for a glance, you get for a moment you get a glimpse of kind of probably what the old Marcos was like, kind of just like cutthroat and very just ruthless. And he just has this like blank emotion on his face, like he just does not care about anything that he's doing. And I don't know, I don't really know what else to really draw from it except that he may be going back to his old ways thanks to Carmen kind of forcing him into it. And then later on when he comes back to the MU, she's sitting here like, okay, so when were you going to tell me, that you were over here with Carmen again? And, he swears all up and down there's nothing between them. He's just doing it because, it was the only option, in order to get her out of jail, in order to stop the cartel, in order to stop the convoy, he had to find out where the convoy was actually going. And in order to do that, he had to agree to this deal with Carmen. And he's like, "I'm only doing it for you and for the baby and everything else." I understand that, but I feel like he should have still included Lorna in the whole situation, because I feel like you know, the two of you, you're going to be raising a child together, and there has to be some trust there. There has to be trust. You can't be keeping the secrets. Granted, you probably, you know, were thinking like you didn't know how to tell her. Like he said, I didn't know how to tell you. And, you know, she probably freak out, which she is right now. But she's freaking out more over the fact that you didn't tell her about it, more so than the actual action, you know. But that's like, again, that's like the main point of this entire episode. I just covered it. So here we go with some of the side things going on. Okay, John, you know, John, he finds Blink, and he's like, oh, it's hard for me to like track you. Obviously, she's a teleporter, so she's not going to leave like an easy trail to follow. It's, you know, it's gonna have to kind of pick it up. Finally, we get to kind of explore this whole road situation, and she was like, you know, where is this road? I want to find where the road is. And that's what she's been doing. She's been trying to find the road and really has no idea about where it actually is, and its significance herself. She really doesn't even know the significance herself. So they come up with this idea to go to this place where she used to stay. He's like, you know, where's your burrow? Like, where did you used to go to stay, like, before you came to the Mutant Underground? And, you know, they go to this ranch house, and you know, John notices that there's like some footprints, and he uses his powers obviously to kind of see like what happened and what transpired beforehand, and he senses that like there was somebody here other than the family who lives there. And then they go up there, and then the house has been sanctioned off by Sentinel Services. They break into the house, and then they see that there's blood on the floor, and that there's like things wrecked around the house, and you know, they draw the conclusion that they either were killed or captured or both. Anyway, so, you know, they have this moment. You know, Blink obviously gets emotional because it's obviously people that she, you know, she cared about. So she gets them all emotional, and they have this scene together, hugging and everything else. I actually ship the two of them more than I actually don't ship John and Dreamer at all. I feel like Blink and John are actually, you know, forming. It's actually becoming more organic, even though, you know, it started off as kind of a lie. I feel like it's developing into something that's actually true. You know, I feel like Blink is actually starting to catch feelings. John is definitely catching feelings for Blink, and you can tell that later on, like towards the end of the episode when John and Blink come back. Dreamer comes up and, you know, gives him a little kiss and whatever, and he just looks like, what, like, oh, okay. I feel like he wasn't really feeling that kiss, and, you know, he's not feeling Dreamer like that anymore. I feel like he's definitely starting to, you know, catch feelings for Blink, especially with all of the stuff that they've been through over the past few episodes. I feel like, you know, they're kind of becoming more organic over time. And hey, I'm behind that. I'm behind it completely. I like Blink as a character anyway a little bit better than Dreamer. Dreamer, I don't really, again, I just don't care about her. She's irrelevant. Somebody else who's irrelevant, Reed and Kate are completely irrelevant. I even tweeted about it. They've become kind of irrelevant in the story because honestly, I wouldn't miss them if they were completely gone. And they try to give Reed some kind of extra backstory in this episode at the end of the episode. But like, you know, the whole thing with them in this episode is that they're trying to, you know, connect with their kids on this new kind of level. Now that they, you know, they're openly mutants, they're training their powers and everything. Things are, and of course, they're having to grow up quicker than usual, you know, because of the situation. And, you know, they kind of have to adapt to the new situation as parents as well. So that was their whole thing. And of course, Reed, knowing what he knew about Wes, he tries to tell Lauren about it, and Lauren is like in disbelief and whatever. But later on, she does go and confront him, and then you know, he says, "Yeah, this is what's been happening with me." And Lauren gets all frantic and hysterical about it. I'm just like, girl, come on, calm down. Majority of the people that are in this daggone place have committed crimes. Some probably worse than what he's done. Okay, so I mean, it is what it is. Later on, you know, Lauren comes back and she ends up kissing him at the end of the episode anyway. Wes is leaving. He's going to this. He said he was going somewhere. I didn't even catch where he was going. Again, irrelevant characters. I really am not like I'm trying to get the ball rolling. Whoever's gonna be in the main, main cast, recurring cast, keep them in there right now. I don't care about anybody who's not, who's not really helping the plot progress. And in my opinion, Reed and Kate, or especially Kate. Kate is definitely not helping the progress of the plot. So like I'm more than likely going to skip over a lot of her stuff in the future unless she does something like really really big and noticeable. Something interesting that happened, and this is probably the last thing that I'm going to talk about because, well, one of the last things. There's one other thing that I want to talk about, but this is one of the last things. The Department of Justice. Okay, they send. I guess they send a liaison. They send this woman to talk to Jace about the program that they're trying to do with these mutants, and they're trying to use the mutants to capture other mutants. And he keeps on throwing this word out, oh, they're terrorists, they're terrorists, they're terrorists. And we've seen over the course of well, it's been years, obviously it's been years, but when a certain group of people does something, then they're automatically seen as terrorists. Like if let's say a minority, somebody who is of Middle Eastern descent, or someone who is black, or someone who's Hispanic, they go and they like shoot up somebody, like shoot up a place. Okay, they're seen as terrorists. But majority goes in, they do it. They use every other word that they can, rogue gunner or rogue shooter, something. They just use any other word that they can except for terrorist. Once you put that terrorist label on there, they automatically think that the person is somebody who's like Muslim or Middle Eastern or something, because people have come to associate mass crimes with that group of people. And so now, like, a lot of media spin this narrative like, white people can't be terrorists, which if they do the same crimes that the other people do, guess what? They're also terrorists. So we see him use this word all the time for mutants, but again, would he label a human as a terrorist if they did the same things that these mutants are doing? And like the next scene with the lady, okay, they're having this big meeting and Campbell is there too, and while she's like explaining all the cons of this and how it's like not within the law, or not within the confines of the law or whatever, here comes Campbell. He brings this mutant in, and he causes this woman to get a nosebleed and like have stroke-like symptoms and like an attack, and a whole episode, okay. And she crosses the floor, and then here comes Campbell to save the day, and Jace is like, what the heck is going on? And he drew the conclusion automatically that it was way too convenient for that to happen while this whole entire meeting was going down. And he confronts Campbell about it, and Campbell is like, I did what I had to do and whatever. And Jace is like, well, they're going to send somebody else. And he's like, well, that'll take weeks. At this very moment, we can start what we wanted to do without them. Okay, so he literally did that as a diversion tactic, a stalling tactic, so that they could start whatever program that they're going to do with like getting those mutants to work for them and whatever. Later on, we see them open a room it was a room of mutants, and all of them were like kind of standing at attention, probably under some type of trance or some type of drug or whatever that make them like kind of dormant in the head or whatever. And they're going down the line, and they're probably going to choose certain mutants with the powers that they want and send them out to fight, or send them out to be double agents. So they're going to get picked up by the mutant underground and then infiltrate from the inside. It's going to be interesting to see that developed in the plot in episodes to come. I mean, it's going to end up being like a big thing if these mutants end up getting into the MU and infiltrating them and then turning against them. It's going to definitely be interesting. So, last thing that I wanted to mention about this episode was Reed. So it was mentioned that Reed's father actually worked for Trask Industries, and if you know anything about X-Men and X-Men comics, Trask Industries, he was the he was the one who actually started the Sentinel program back in like the 1960s or 70s or something. I can't remember exactly when, but he did say that his father had been working there for decades and that he worked for Trask. And so that makes them draw the conclusion that, you know, that his father will probably know something that's going on about this entire situation. Like he'll be able to help them maybe, or you know, I don't know exactly what's about to happen. I saw the preview for the next episode, so they're going to see his father in the next episode. So I'm really looking forward to that development as well. Honestly, okay, so yeah, so that's pretty much it for this episode. Like, there was really nothing that huge, in my opinion, that was really a big development. Again, Reed being the son of a Trask Industries employee, that's kind of big. Marcos working for Carmen again, that's big. And this whole situation with Blink, I really want to see more of that kind of going on, because like I was kind of losing it while like in between. I was kind of losing it, but I definitely want to see some more of that as well, because I want to see more Blink. Blink is kind of one of my favorite characters anyway, just without even trying. Like, she hasn't really done too much in the story right now though, so I'm really looking forward to seeing some more of her. And that's gonna be it for this little review recap. It wasn't much, and I jumped around a lot only because I was pointing out the things that stood out the most to me this time around. I feel like that may be the direction that I go in. Again, I'm feeling my way with these kinds of reviews and stuff, because I don't want to sit there and explain every scene for scene for scene for scene. I mean, that's great, but having like a whole half-hour video of it is kind of eh. And only when it calls for it will I do it. So tell me what you thought about this episode below. I mean, I didn't really look on Twitter or anything. I don't even know who's tweeting about it. Like, a couple of people liked my tweet, but I don't really know who's tweeting about The Gifted. I mean, it is what it is. I guess the ratings are good enough for them to go into a second season. I'm not sure. I hope this is something that lasts, because I don't want I don't want my first recap, my first show to recap, to be canceled in the first season. I just, but anyway, I hope that everybody has a great night. Okay, get some sleep. I definitely have to get some sleep. I'm so tired, but I wanted to get this video out tonight so that you guys would have it, and so I wouldn't have to worry about tomorrow, because I have to work early tomorrow morning. So anyway, again, that's gonna be it. Comment down below what you thought. Take care, guys.